presented by AIRWAAV. I'm your host, Sydney Smith, and I'm here with Tyler Cooke, who is the owner of CrossFit 1124 in Marietta, Georgia. He also competed at the CrossFit Games this past year on a team and did very well. We talk about a lot of different things, from being a father, a gym owner, and athlete, and we even touch on why it's important for any type of athlete or gym goer to use AIRWAAV and how they're able to benefit from it. For those of y'all who don't know, Tyler Cooke and I actually competed on a team together at the CrossFit Games this past year. It was both of our first time there and at semifinals as well, so we had quite the season. We got pretty close. We both used AIRWAAV all throughout the season too, which is pretty cool, so that's why I decided to hop on the podcast and have him as a guest of On the Air. We have a lot to talk about, covering a lot of different topics, including 1124, the team and just balancing, and then obviously some about AIRWAAV. So just starting out, how has training been? It's kind of like an odd point in the season with it starting to ramp up now, but what does that look like for you right now?
This part of the year is tricky because after the games, I, being 35 years old and the senior of the group, took a considerable amount of time, not off. I took probably 2 weeks off, and then it was like very slow bodybuilding, just getting back in it. And then the winter months hit, and it was like we're bulking and we're really nothing was like dialed in. It's really weird when you compete like we did, and you know what that takes on a daily basis. In the month of November, when there's no real stakes going on, it's just hard to make yourself go to that place of discipline to the level that it needs to be to compete at the CrossFit Games. So it was kind of an easygoing month, and that was great. Like while we were in it, it was awesome. It was just a really easygoing, easy time. And then when you turn the clock to December, and then certainly in January, I'm actually competing next weekend at Wadapalooza in Miami with Riley, our other teammate, and a guy named Joe Piero. And so that was kind of something to have the eyes on, but it didn't really start getting real until the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. And now that period of time hurts from a training standpoint because you're getting back to the normal intensities and volume, but you're probably not ready mentally there at that point, dialed in with the eating and the sleeping and all the things that go along with it. So it's been a weird transition. The last 2 weeks have really been good, and I can feel kind of that groove coming back, which is nice.
Yeah, I was about to say the past bit you've been kind of just having more fun with it and kind of doing whatever, not as strict on the programming. But now, one, the season is coming up, but then also competing in Wadapalooza. And obviously getting back into training can be a little bit more difficult, especially with spiking your heart rate and just the volume too and all the different things across the board. How are you feeling about Wadapalooza coming up?
Feel great. This week's been a taper week where I've gotten the volume's way down, but the intensity is very, very high and almost like game style touches. We've taken my coach Ryan Bucciantini at Conquer Athlete, who is the best in the business, by the way. He's given me some really good twists on the workouts that we'll see next week. And so to kind of see what those movements will feel like in combination, and they felt really good. So even though I don't feel like we did over the summer, really kind of peaking, like we'll call it. I definitely still, I mean, they've got the baseline of fitness that's there. And the last several weeks, we've knocked the rust off. We've gotten the diet back in. The sleep's good. And so we've been able to feel that kind of come back. So next week's going to be a blast. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch you and cheer you on there. But
you mean as our coach, but go ahead.
Yes, I do have that coach's pass for y'all.
Yes.
I'll be coaching y'all up with all my expertise. I know this part about you, and you had mentioned it earlier, but obviously not that you are old, but being a 35-year-old in the sport, can you kind of take me back as to like how long you've been in CrossFit and how you kind of got started into it, and especially even like competing too, and also tie that in with starting 1124, because obviously that is a big part of what you do. And also for everyone listening, it's definitely the nicest gym in probably the country or even the world that I've ever even seen. If you haven't, go look at their Instagram. Great facility, super clean, very high end. So I guess, Tyler, tell me all about that.
Yeah. So the arc and the story is that I started CrossFit in December of 2013. Just my dad at the time wanted to start working out and lose some weight, and he was in his early 50s. And I was like, well, cool, we'll go to LA Fitness and we'll just do our thing. And for like 6 weeks, we were in there just doing buys and tries and like classic bodybuilding stuff. And he's like, this sucks. It's so boring. It's so slow. I'm quitting. And I was like, well, don't quit. Let's just change it up. So we tried CrossFit at CrossFit Resurgence here in Atlanta, and went there with him and just fell in love the first day. For me, it kind of scratched the competitive itch, even though I was just doing class and never had my eyes set on like actually competing. It was just a fun thing to go in every day and compete with the people at the noon class or whatever. And so I did that for 5 years at Resurgence. And then I met what is now my wife in 2016, got married in 17. And right off the bat, she was like, I think I want to start coaching. And I had already had my eyes set on like, hey, this, from a business standpoint, there's a lot of really cool things that could be done within this opening of gym. And so I couldn't personally put the time into it. And so I said to Callie, I said, well, instead of just coaching, why don't we open up a gym? So we started looking around and trying to lease space. And background is I'm in the real estate development business. So my brain immediately went to, well, what if we bought a place and kind of owned it? And we went down the road. And long story short, we kind of a God story of how we got it, but we found this piece of property that's in downtown Marietta, Georgia, where we live. We live a mile from here, and put together this piece of property and built this building. It's about 14,000 square feet. It's a really, really nice space. We've been very, very blessed to be able to build what we did. And so that was in 2018. We started and opened the gym, and just been running wide open ever since. The competition side was very organic. I never had any dreams or aspirations or anything. I had a buddy of mine back in the day told me, he's like, you should quit your job and try to do CrossFit for a year and see what that happens, because you could be really good. And because I'm a squatter, I'm not super tall at 5'6", like not super tall. I'm
Is it
tall, but I'm not
5'6"?
super. I am.
You're not 5'6".
I'm 5'6", and so I'm
You're
built
5'7".
like I'm 5'7". Thank you, Sydney. I am 5'6.5", and so with shoes on, so I'm set up biomechanically to be pretty good at the sport. And but who can take a year off from work and do that? I couldn't at the time. Wasn't.
Not
And then they
that
came out with quarterfinals in 2022 maybe, and me and one other person and two other people from the gym qualified. Jimmy Brewer, guy still at the gym, good guy. We qualified, and I told Callie, my wife, I said, I'm not going to actually do quarterfinals. That sounds pretentious, me out there doing my thing when I'm just about the gym. I want the gym to do well. I want the people here to do well. And she's like, you have to, because it shows what's possible. Like at the time, I was just doing a class a day, just like one class a day, normal guy. And so we did quarterfinals. We competed, and I think I might have been like 250 out of our region, and the top 120 made it with just a class a day. And so then I sat down with a couple of coaches and a good friend of mine, Mike Tomry, and we just said, hey, what if we actually tried and put some effort into training and eating and sleeping and actually tried it. So anyway, we started doing that kind of collectively as a group. Me and all the coaches would train kind of middle of the day for about an hour, and then we'd still do class, and then that just organically grew. And as you know, being an athlete, a really tremendous athlete in the sport yourself, with a bright future you have.
Oh, thank you, Tyler.
It was like, hey, you have to put a lot into this to compete. You can't really just do at this level. If you really want to compete on the games level, the semifinal level, you've got to really be able to almost be all in on this thing. So it just organically grew into got a coach did that just to us. Got a coach the next year. Been with Ryan now for this will be my third year with him. And then what's been super cool for me personally is just the amount that I've learned on the athlete side translates so much to members. I talk to people all the time. I had a conversation this morning. Mike comes up and says, hey, how should I pace this workout? And I was like, well, thanks for asking. And I dive into pacing. I'm glad you asked. And so it's been super cool to see the transition between both. And it's helped me as a coach and a gym owner and things like that. And then the best part of the story was when me and Riley, if you don't know Riley good, go look him up. We call him Pumbaa, to my Timon. He and I talked. We've been best friends for several years. He called me. He's like, hey, I think I'm going to go team. What do you think? And at first I was like, no, dude, I'm prideful. I'm going to go individual. And then I thought about it for 30 minutes. I was like, hey, I'd love to be on your team if the invite's still there. And we linked up with you. and that was a story. And we linked up with Brooklyn, and that was a story. And so anyway, we did the team thing last year and got third at semis, which was super cool. We qualified for the games, went to the games, got 13th in the entire world, which was super cool. With a pregnant teammate. Shout out to Brooklyn and
Shout
the
out
baby mile.
Brooklyn.
Yep, it's beautiful. Anyway, so that's the story. It's been a super cool, very organic. Nothing was like, hey, I want to go make games. It was like, opened a gym, got pretty good at the game. Like just very organic. It's been very, very cool. And hopefully me and my team can do some cool things this year too.
Do you think when Riley asked you to go team that was the moment that you were like, I'll put something into this and try to be as competitive as possible?
Probably a little bit before then, I had gone to my coach Ryan when I made the decision to get a coach. So then the second year I did quarterfinals after just doing. We followed Mayhem Athlete just online here in the gym and got like maybe 1/60th out of top 120 made it. So we still made a bunch of progress. But that was I was like, hey, these guys that are making it to semifinals, they got coaches, they got blah blah blah. So that was kind of the decision to do that. And then very early on with him, I said, hey, and I'll never forget. I said, hey, would it help if I did like 2 sessions a day sometimes? And he was like, well, yeah, that'll really move the needle. And then what you find is you really get into the competitive side is that at the games level for sure, but even if you're trying to make a semifinal, it can't. There's just so much. Like I mean, I counted up last year, and we train anywhere from 16 to 18 hours in the gym, and that's as a 35-year-old who has to watch recovery metrics, and I can't just go train like a 22-year-old Sid. To make sure that I'm as healthy as I can, and I've been injury free, God willing, and so we've been training smart, and so it still requires a tremendous amount of training in the gym. I've got a sauna and a plunge at my house, as you know, and like do that 5 nights a week. Like there's all so much that goes into being at this level that you just don't understand when you're watching it. And so I think somewhere along that line, after getting the coach, it was kind of like, if you really want to do this, you got to do it. And then when we had the team, that brought like a whole new responsibility and burden because it wasn't just me. And if I screw this up, I've let my wife down and like my 5-year-old daughter. But I got a 2-year-old son, but he doesn't care. But you guys, like now I'm like, oh, I can't show up and have Sid hit me in the head like middle of the workout, tell me to go. I don't want to have that. I want to look at her like, hey, we need to go. So there was this extra oomph that was added to my daily training, knowing that y'all were doing the same thing. That was super cool to have as well.
You kind of touched on it some, but obviously there's like a lot of challenges and just as like being an athlete in general. But what do you think was the most challenging part of prepping for the games? And also if you want to touch on, I guess, one, how you've like overcome that and how you've been able to work through that, but also your gym itself is a large part of it. There's a lot of support within that gym, just within the members itself. You have a lot of family and friends. How did all of that and having the team in mind and the full support system, how did that play a role into the season and maybe even your mindset going all throughout the season?
That was like a 6-part question, Sid, which was awesome. I'm going to break it down per question. The gym is everything. And you and I have talked about this privately, tons of times, that at the end of the day, when I did decide to go team, this was a conversation I had with Ryan as well, was it had to be under the gym's name. It had to be under CrossFit 1124 because at the end of the day, I don't care about, I'm 35. I'm not going to make a career out of competitive CrossFit. I can't. If I was 22, I'd be a problem for everybody else. But at 35, that's just not what is going to provide for me and my family, my wife and my 2 kids. I'm just at a different phase in life. But the gym is doing well. It's got we have the best, everybody says that, but we truly do have the best people in the world. And I knew that they supported me and everything we did. And I said, man, if we could get on the games stage and that level, these people would just go nuts. Like every year we go to Beach Brawl in Pensacola. We've done Wadapalooza. This will be my 5th time doing it. 4th time. Anyway, doesn't matter. And we send a big crew of 20, 30 people to all these like out of town competitions. And I said, man, if we could just make one of the big ones, everybody would rally behind it. And so when we started the team thing, it was always about the gym first. It's got to be the gym. We train a lot here, which is a tremendous amount of burden on you being out of town, Riley being out of town, the other girl being out of town. Sorry, spoiler. So that's a big burden on you guys, and I appreciate every time you guys come into town and train at our gym and our affiliate. The people here just love it. Now, when it came time financially to help support our journey, they were there buying t-shirts, playing our golf tournament, did our competition, all these things that we did. So it's just this classic case of like an affiliate rallying behind a couple people to go do something super cool. We still have members that come in like, remember when you were at the games, we did the thing. It's just really, really awesome. You asked about how I do it all and balance it because I've got that. This actually isn't even my full-time job. I'm in the real estate business, and so that kind of takes up my time. And Callie runs the gyms. It's kind of her thing. She's a monster in the space. She does such a good job of taking care of these people. But I could not do what I do without her allowing me to do it, like giving me permission to say, hey, you can go do this, but also taking care of the kids. Now I'm coaching a lot of mornings. We coach at 5:15, 6:30. We coach probably, I don't know, 2-3 times a week in the mornings. But during the season, she does all that, which is great for me because she lets me sleep. I need that extra 2-3 hours where she just does that. So like there's things that I just don't know how other people could do that. Get home, make the kids breakfast. Corey goes to school. Like there's just so much to do that I couldn't do on my own, certainly. So she's the one that kind of makes it go. You know that. She's just in charge of everything. She makes everything go. Yeah.
Shout out Callie. Obviously, especially in CrossFit, a lot of things that, or the thing that people love most really is the community aspect of it. Kind of no matter what or where you are, what gym you're going to, but with your gym specifically, there is such a strong community. What do you think has been the most rewarding part of owning 1124?
Such a deep question. What's the best part about owning the gym? Tom, that left here 30 minutes ago, came to us 3 years ago and could not do yard work because Tom's in his late 60s or 70s, and if Tom won't watch this, but Tom's been around, and he comes in 4 days a week, and Tom has changed his whole life. He can cut his own grass now. Hearing stories of guys that come in and got an old war injury. I can't, I got to play baseball and throw a football over the mountain, but I can't do anything overhead. And then to see those same people doing handstand push-ups. I've got a guy in here that is pushing 100 pounds in weight loss. And I know those are like all cliche things about like, we just want to help the people. But the reality is that these stories just fire me up when they come in here. I had a guy, one of my favorite stories is that a guy that joined our gym, very, very shy, very to himself, unsure of himself. He's been a member now for probably 2 years. He said he sat in his car for an hour before coming into the gym. And as you know this, as a outwardly confident type person that you and I are, I just, to me, that's like mind blowing to find. What do you mean? Just come in the gym, dude. We're just normal people. What's your problem? But for him, just going in the gym on his first day was like he sat in his car for an hour and just watched people walk in because he was so nervous to come in. And now I got to kick the guy out on Saturdays. I'm like, hey, you need to go home and do something else because this is. So I love hearing those stories. Those are incredibly rewarding stories that we hear on a daily basis. The friendships that have spawned out of here. We've got several people that have met there now. My sister met her now husband, who's a great dude, in the gym. So like I kind of talk like if we hadn't opened up the gym, if God hadn't let us to open up this gym, there would be 4 or 5 couples that never met because their paths would have never crossed, that then have gotten married, that are going to have families and things like that. All kinds of friendship groups that people would have never known. I would have never met some of my closest friends, you and Riley and others in the gym that I would have never crossed your path had I not been in the competitive space that was spawned out of the gym. Me and Riley got tattoos. Like it's crazy that some of the stories that have come out of just us simply having the space to do it. And that's just a God thing. I'm a believer, and God just created this table of like, hey, we're going to do some really awesome things through this space. You just got to go do it. And so we were able to do it, and it's just been incredible.
I think
My
it's
favorite moment, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
My favorite moment community-wise was when we qualified for the games at semis. and there's a picture of you and I when it happened. We looked so stupid. Maybe you can link it, but when you look at the picture and we look up at the crowd, and we had probably 50, 75 people there going berserk in an otherwise quiet arena because they kind of dragged the announcement out. And they announced us, and you and I both like whirled around and looked up at our families and friends, and all I could do was just scream with my hands up of like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible!" That was probably just to know that like that was a selfish endeavor on our part because it was us that was on the floor. But to look up and see 75 people that traveled 3 hours, paid money, blah, 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 just to be there with us was incredible. I still get chills thinking about it now.
I think that was one of the coolest moments, and we were probably really obnoxious, but for reference, this is
That's the picture.
vibe.
That picture hangs in the gym downstairs. Look at that. Bunch of idiots.
Tyler and I, but yeah, when they announced that and just seeing the sport and hearing it too,
it's crazy.
That was so cool because obviously we're so excited, but I think it's even cooler to see people supporting you. And like to your point, my favorite thing is the people I've met and like friendships that I've done. Like obviously, like you love working out, but and then just seeing people's stories. Like I can't say this as a gym owner, but being able to see people in the gym that either get excited to come do something health wise and better themselves in some aspect and really just improving across the board, whether that's mindset, physically, emotionally, or all across the board, all those things combined. I think that's something super cool to see.
It's incredible. There's nothing like it helping other people. I mean, we literally like change lives, which is like a hard thing to comprehend. That almost feels like a weird responsibility, but we just come in here every day and do our thing. And people come and enjoy it, and they want to pay you $200 a month. It's kind of a crazy concept. But
it's great. So I want to move into talking about AIRWAAV, and even before I guess even when I first met you, you were using AIRWAAV on your own before. Like I didn't do any introducing to you at all. So I guess take me through the beginning of that, of like, how did you first hear about AIRWAAV? What made you want to try it? Because it's kind of a little something wonky. If you don't really know about it, it's like, why are you using that? That doesn't work. Sure. So take me through the beginning of you using AIRWAAV and your interest in it.
I've used AIRWAAV for, I'm not to count it up, but 3 years now, very quickly into like competing. It came out on the market and I was looking to try to compete. And so for me, if you could give me an edge of any kind, why would I not at least try it? But the real reason that I did it, if I'm being perfectly honest on this podcast in front of whoever watches this, Rich Froning did it. So I was like, well, look.
Rich Froning fan.
If Rich did it, why would I not do it? And so I bought it. And then when it's so funny because when you first buy it, and we see this every day in the gym because people in the gym, if we wear rads, like the people are going to see the coaches do certain things. And so people will get the AIRWAAV. And when you first get an AIRWAAV, part of the rite of passage of buying the AIRWAAV is you have to walk around with it out your mouth for the first week. You're just like, hey, I got to go train. Sorry. You got it hanging out your mouth to show everyone that I've got an AIRWAAV So I did that, and Rich had it. So I was like, well, I got to do it. So I did. And then what I found very early on, when you get
the question is, did you feel like Rich Froning whenever you started using it?
So I felt like it. I watch a lot of video review, and we're not the same. Me and Rich are not the same.
Identical.
I did feel that way, and I think that's part of it, Sid, is you need to feel good. Very early on, though, I would love to tell you that I did a lot of market research, and I did the science behind it. I did none of that. I saw a Mayhem video, and he had it, so I got it. And then I got into it, and I was like, oh, I actually do like this. Christian Harris also had it, and he would do more like talking about why he uses it and pushing down with your tongue. It opens up the back of your airway, gets more airflow. So obviously then I started getting into the science of why it works and what it does. Got used to it. It does take some getting used to when you're breathing hard, and all of a sudden now you're putting something that in theory could like get in the way. So you got to get used to it. And once I did, I was like, oh, this is great. And early on, there were probably a lot of workouts dramatically that I would spit the AIRWAAV out. Like, oh, that was a hard workout. I got to get rid of this thing. That just doesn't happen. Once you get into it and you get used to it, it's part of my normal feeling and routine. It's part of my breathing technique and how I do things. And 3 years in, and I still lean on it today of like, hey, if I'm in a hard set of whatever it is I'm doing, I know that when things start to lose a little bit of control of what I'm doing, I got to control my breathing. That's the number one thing I got to do to get me back to like baseline. And so I just use that AIRWAAV as like, hey, tongue down, opens up, more airflow, calms things down. And I still use that today.
So there's obviously a large part of it being a breathing component, and you even mentioned calming you down, but how would you say, would there be anything additional to that you might be able to share, that how it has impacted your performance? Whether that might be strength, recovery, maybe more so of the breathing, a mindset thing, any of that?
So breathing and mindset. The mindset portion is, again, maybe placebo, but it's almost like part of the uniform. When I start to get warmed up and get ramped up, you got a process of like what you do. And for me, that starts with very easy stretching and like mobilizing the body. It's a little bit of aerobic stuff, getting the breathing going, but I don't have the AIRWAAV in yet. It's still in my pocket. And then when I start the prep work of the workout, if I'm doing toes to bar and snatches, when I start moving the barbell, when I start getting into what I'm going to do in the workout, I pop it in. And maybe that's just subconsciously, but that's part of my routine of where I'm at in my warming up process to say, okay, we're getting close. I treat it almost like when you see racehorses getting in to go on their race, they literally have like a way of going about bringing the horse in. It's not funny, Sid. I'm trying to tell a story. When they go in, there's like parts of like the checklist of, okay, it's turning, and when they make the final turn into the chute, they're gone. I almost have the same like warm up routine. And then when the AIRWAAV goes in, it starts to be, okay, we're getting close. And I'll tell you when warming up, I'll say, hey, I'm getting close. Just letting y'all know. Because I'm the one that takes forever to warm up because I'm 35 years old and care about my body, unlike you guys. So there's probably a mental aspect there. The breathing aspect is pretty simple. Everything I'm doing in the gym, high level or high intensity, and start breathing. And if you lose your breath control, the body will just start to shut down. And that's when everyday average people with the noon class are like, man, I started to get this, my legs started blowing up. I had to stop and take a break. Well, Rich Froning doesn't stop and take a break because he's in control of everything he's doing. And so for me, the breath is everything in the sports side of like, I need to be able to control what I'm doing. And if I lose control of my breathing, I'm going to lose control of my leg pump or arm pump or whatever it is, getting fatigued in the workout. So I've always, my number one focus is always, okay, I got to control this breathing. And for me, the AIRWAAV is just an easy trigger of like tongue down, open. I know that's the trigger of calming myself down. Now I'm back in control of the moment. I can control what my movement patterns look like. And so it actually does make a real difference of the using that as a trigger point in the workout with my breath work.
Yeah. Next time we train, I will be sure to call you a racehorse as you're getting prepared for workouts. But
I'm going to beat you so badly in that workout because of my preparation, but go ahead.
Let's take a workout, for example, that's echo bike and sandbag, like a heavy sandbag. You put the AIRWAAV in.
Terrible, Sid.
You're ready to go. How are you able to tell a difference once you pop that in?
I genuinely think that it calms me down, and I guess that could be placebo of like you equate it to like my son's 2 and still takes I don't know what age you're supposed to take the pacifier, but my son's 2 and still does it. And a pacifier like calms a kid down. Maybe it's the same placebo effect of like, oh, well, Ty's got his AIRWAAV, he's calm. I like to look at it like when I'm controlling my breathing, I'm calmer. I know that's a fact. It's something my coach and I have worked so hard on these hard efforts is the breath control and what breathing cadence. He never gives me like, hey, row at this pace. He says row at a pace at which you can breathe and talk in short sentences and blah, blah, blah. So everything we do training wise comes back to breath work. And so if my breath work is at the center of it and I can do something, use a tool that helps me control the breathing, that's going to have a trickle down to whatever I'm doing. Thrusters, rowing, sandbag, echo bike. Echo bike's a really great example because it is probably the number one thing that'll pump the blood and the lungs the most because of the leg pump, which requires the most blood flow. And then also now you're using your arms as well. So very quickly you get out of breath on the echo bike. Well, if I could get control of my breathing, that'll allow my body to continue to work as it's supposed to work. and my muscles to continue to fire like they need to. The moment I stop breathing, the brain will start to shut things down and say, wait a minute, something's going on. So for me, that tool of like calming things down is Echo Bike's a great example of just, hey, focus on the breathing and it'll slow things down and keep the body moving.
Yeah, breathing across the board, even if you've used it in your ice plunge too, but whether it's doing ice plunging, actually doing a workout or something like that, it's going to help a ton with breathing and how your body responds. But I don't think it just is for high level athletes like yourself. I think a lot of your gym members, as you had mentioned earlier, are using it. So I guess I kind of want to touch on that on your regular gym goer. Why, and you've touched on it some, but if someone is like, I'm not a high level athlete and I don't need to use that, and someone comes to you in your gym and like, why would I use an AIRWAAV? What would you say to them?
Why do we ask you to squat to depth just like we ask Sid to squat to depth at the CrossFit Games? It's the same thing. So in our warm ups, we say to you, hey, everybody give me a squat and hold the bottom. And we look around and I'm looking around and everybody gets to the bottom of a squat. And then we go do wall balls in the workout and I look over and Jane is not squatting to depth. And I say, Jane, that doesn't count because you didn't hit depth. You need to squat to depth. No different than the breathing. They need to control, a noon goer needs to control his breathing just like Sid needs to control her breathing at the CrossFit Games. And so that I equate, it's the same thing. It's the same principle as the squat. I need you to squat to depth because that's the way that the body is going to respond the most. Full range of motion, squat, blah, blah, blah. The same thing for breathing. If you lose your breathing in a 6-minute Fran, which is not super fast, but just like you lose your breathing in a 3-minute Fran, which is considerably faster and a good time, that same concept reigns true. So you've got to be able to control your breathing in both, whether it's a slower effort because you're having to take more breaks, or if it's a faster effort, you've still got to control your breathing. So it's important for everybody in that spectrum of very slow breathing, high pace breathing. It doesn't matter what level athlete you are. Breath control is always going to be a very important, if not the most important, component of what we're doing in CrossFit.
Yeah. And I've been in your gym and I've seen a lot of your members using it. And I don't know if that's because you set the trend or not for people to use it. And I'm not sure if you might have this, but have you heard any feedback that you'd be able to share from your members or success stories from them about using AIRWAAV at your gym?
The conversations I have with them are interesting because I always wonder, are you saying that because you've heard that somewhere on a podcast, or do you truly believe that it helps me breathing, it calms me down when I'm running? I can, the same things that I've been spitting out. I've used it for 3 years. I've used it on the CrossFit Games floor. I've got really good personal experience with it. Some of the other people have been using it for a month, and the first thing they'll say is, it just makes me more comfortable. And for me, as the gym owner, I don't care if that's placebo or the pacifier effect or if it's actually real. If Jake likes it and feels good and comfortable wearing it, I want him to do that. No different than we talk about weightlifting shoes with lifters adding that platform. If it makes you feel more comfortable in a back squat, do whatever you need to do, man. Put the weight belt on, put the lifters on. You got some of these people that are like, yeah, but you need to be able to squat barefoot. Not if it makes Sally squat more comfortably and feel better. I want Sally to be successful. If the AIRWAAV makes that person feel that way, I don't care if it's pacifier, placebo, or if it's real. A lot of the feedback too we get is in weightlifting, where they feel they're biting down that gives them something to clench on. And I don't know if that's kind of universal, but I know I've had that specific conversation with multiple people that are walking out, again, hooked on their mouth. I got an AIRWAAV right here, AIRWAAV. And then they go lift and they enjoy that feeling or feel more comfortable with the feeling of being able to bite down on something. I know that's a big one that I've had feedback from a lot of people on.
Yeah. I mean, specifically with strength itself, we've had a lot of research done and a lot of feedback. Obviously, there's a lot of strongmen, athletes, powerlifters using it. Like when you clench down, you're able to maximize your strength output. So like you even may be able to add a few pounds just by like clenching down, just with how your body responds. So there's definitely that aspect of it too. But yeah, I guess seeing a lot of people in your gym, I think is super cool using it and really enjoying it. Obviously, you using it, going to continue to use it. So I guess looking ahead, kind of taking a step away from that, what are your goals for the future, whether that's some with the gym members, whether that's an athlete this upcoming season? What is on your mind? What's on the horizon?
So the gym, we're always trying to grow the gym, just from like a business standpoint, yes. But back to the point of like affecting people's lives. The more people we get in the gym, the more people we can affect and touch and have a good influence on. That's at the end of the day, that's all we care about at the gym is continue to reach the people that we have and reach more people to get them in. We know this methodology works. We know it's going to have a good positive impact. So we're always looking to grow the gym. At the end of last year, I sat and talked with my wife. Two things. My ultimate goal was never to make the CrossFit Games. It was never to be competitive, blah, blah, blah. It was always, I would love to host an open announcement at the gym for CrossFit HQ. And so if anyone from that particular world is watching this, listening, we would love to have you guys come. So that's always the gym goal. From the season, to your point about the season, like the sports side, which is obviously different than the everyday gym goer side, God bless you, is at the end of last year, sat down with my beautiful wife, Callie, and said, sweetheart, what do you think about next year? Because it's such a burden on her. And then you guys, when you guys come, the team comes, everybody stays at our house. And so we love you guys, but it's, having anybody in your house is always extra people. It's out of routine. Kids got to sleep in our bed, blah, blah, blah. So I said, sweetheart, what do you think about doing this another year? This would be super fun. We left the games with a taste in our mouth of what it was like to compete there. We knew we didn't accomplish what we thought we could accomplish, and so we wanted collectively to kind of try to go do it again and be better. So when you say this season, I'm on a CrossFit team. I cannot say the team members as of when will this air?
I'm not sure.
We're going to no one cares. The goal of this team is to be a podium team at the games, challenge to win the games, the CrossFit Games, do well in the online semifinal, win the semifinal. We've got really big, lofty goals that are audacious to even say out loud. But then knowing the team that I've got with me, I'm perfectly fine throwing those out there and not afraid to go chase them. So that's kind of where we're at on the season.
I like the ambition and excitement.
Good because you're part of that team. You have to be.
Okay, my last question for you. If you were to summarize in a few sentences, why would you recommend AIRWAAV to a regular gym goer?
There is a comfort level that I have wrapped my own head around with the breathing component of high intensity workouts that we do in CrossFit. That I think the breathing is the biggest limiter that we run into at any level, whether that's a new Foundations member that just signed up or a CrossFit Games athlete. I think whatever level you're looking at, a limiter to getting you to the next tier of your fitness journey, I think a big portion of that is the breathing component. And anything that you can use that will help the breathing component will help your overall fitness on a linear scale. And for me, the AIRWAAV is scientifically backed to help with the breathing component. So for me, if you're saying, hey, should I take creatine or should I take protein or should I take steroids? No one asked me that. But you're taking these supplements, you're trying to do these things. Should I plunge? Should I sauna? Yes, but you need to breathe better in workouts. And so this is a very low-hanging fruit, easy tool to go get online. You can drop the link below that we can easily put into our implement this week in the gym. That is not going to be something that's unobtainable to do and will make you more comfortable breathing, which will help your fitness journey.
Oh, that's a great summarization there.
Thanks,
Tyler. That's kind of all I have for us today, but I enjoy talking to you on a different type of platform than normal.
This
But
is great, huh?
It was so great. Hopefully some people will be able to hear from you, maybe even go visit CrossFit 1124. It's in Marietta, Georgia.
Please
the
do.
Nicest gym you're going to go to. Be sure to go there and say hi to Tyler if you decide to go, and tell him how famous he is on the podcast of On the Air.
It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, of course. That's it for us today. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that's all for today's episode of On the Air. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Tyler, for joining me. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to purchase your own AIRWAAV mouthpiece if you want to break your best and unlock your full athletic potential. If you've made it this far, be sure to use code OTA15 for 15% off your next purchase. Drop any questions that you have about AIRWAAV in the comments below, and see you next time.